And start off with the cough. Good morning, everybody. It's DCA Live. I'm here with my good friend, CTO Larson. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Fantastic. Great day here, as always, because it's Monday.
It's Monday and the market's pumping. We had a very big green candle, which is kind of interesting to see. We'll be talking about that and many other items. Some bullish indicators that some people may not see, be aware of, but overall, this has not turned out to be the September that people thought. A lot of people were going, oh, we're all going to die. And it's caught everybody by surprise. In fact, a lot of shorts got liquidated in the last few hours, too, which is always sad to hear. But humans will always be degens and they'll never stop playing games, etc. Trying to play whatever the sentiment says. So let's put some things together. And I apologize if my voice is a little bit gone, or if I look like my chest is shiny, but I am sweating. So I don't know what's wrong. Anyway, let me gather up a couple of things. I do want to add one extra slide to go through the actual agenda. Bear with me one second. Turn this one on, go this full screen, and then I'm going to add myself and another camera. Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to do is walk us through. Well, first of all, most important thing is this is going to be called Bitcoin Reversal. And do not forget to subscribe to Ivan's channel and CTO Larson's channel. Ivan is in Dubai. He's traveling today, so he's not going to be here. But the very first topic we are going to talk about is this. Bitcoin tops 27,000 after the death cross formation, and the Fed is likely to extend a rate pause. So what is going on here? Everybody was expecting the world to end, and that didn't happen. And, the death cross always frightens people. And I've analyzed death crosses across many different assets for decades. And only 60% of the time does it result in the price going down. The rest of 40% it goes up. So it's nearly a 50-50. So CTO, first question for you. Were you frightened by the death course? Or you were bullish? Like
I
we were bullish
wasn't.
the last few.
I wasn't at all. I brought it up now on the chart here to share with you for this video. But if going back and looking a little bit at the history, there are much better models, I think, for Bitcoin than the death cross. Just so to update everyone what it is, it basically means that the short-term moving average, 50-day simple moving average, goes below the longer-term 200-day moving average. But I did research this to death, basically, the death cross to death, already 2018, and I settled that there are much better trend indicators than this one. So I was not scared of this, and I think actually it doesn't matter. The indication here doesn't matter because just make sure you can see the screen, right? Yeah, you can. So we're in a range. We're in a very tight range. Bitcoin is in a very tight range. It's just bouncing around here. And this move today seems like a big move. But if you look here, we're just bouncing around this range. And whatever happens with the trend inside the range doesn't really matter. What I'm looking for is a breakout from this range. That will give us some clue. If we break out here on the upside, and with the trend up, that means something. If we break down from the range with the trend down, okay, that means something. But trend changing in the middle of a range doesn't really mean anything. So I was not scared. I don't use death cross at all, and I'm going to remove it again from my chart.
Good. And in terms of that resistance level you have there is about 32,000, 31,000.
Yeah, so it is I drew it a little above 30,000, but as we saw here, we did come above that, but we didn't really hold it with any consistency. So I still have the same level, but if we do clear 32,000 and don't immediately fall back, that's what will mean something. If we look at what happened last time, was that we did cross the level, but every time we just fell back down again. If not the next day, then after 2 days or within the day. We couldn't really hold that level. So if that changes, if we break out here and we hold that level, maybe retest and turn that resistance into support, and the trend is back up, that's what will mean something. And from a technical analysis perspective.
So you're going to wait for it. You're going to wait for that trend to flip before you deploy.
I'm never zero on Bitcoin. I always have Bitcoin. So if we go up, I make money, but I will add to that position if we break above that resistance. And then if we don't, because frankly, I don't really know what's going to happen short term, if we fall lower, I just add at lower levels. And then I will make even more money when we go up.
Yep.
So that's my strategy. I play a little bit safe here, bet on both two horses, basically.
Yeah, there's a couple of other things. This is my kind of little view of the world right now, and it's just a very simple chart on the 4 hour, going back over a month. One of the things that was uncanny is how the support at 25K or 24.8, it just gets bought up, and you see that from the volume profile I saw in your chart too. But this engulfing candle is quite impressive. The only concern I have is that red line is the 200-day moving average, and that's where sometimes we fall back down. And that would be the first level. If we can break through that, I think we could be in for a very good time. And then it could be a run up until we get to the actual halving itself. So that's just my view. But the 200-day, I think, is very, very important too as resistance. But that move so far, we are at the heights of the month so far. And things are looking very, very positive.
Yeah. And I think maybe we will talk about it more later, but there's some very interesting developments in the macro charts also. And sometimes these give us clues ahead of time for what Bitcoin will do next. So if we look at the DXY, the dollar strength index, it's now coming very close to the resistance level. And of course, until broken, most people will bet that the resistance holds. So that means that I think most market speculators will bet on that this level here will hold another time. It held here, it held here, it held here, it held here. This time it didn't reach, but now it seems to be reaching again. If this rejects here, so this one turns down, that the dollar kind of gets weaker, that often gives a boost to Bitcoin, looking at the history. And the same goes for the 2-year yield. We're very close. I think this wick here, by the way, today, I choked on my coffee this morning, actually, seeing that this one had broken through. But I'm reading on Twitter that people feel it's some sort of data quality mistake.
Yeah.
I'm actually
mistake.
I think so. I don't think this happened this week here.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything about interest rate that should. I think it's a charting mistake. So data quality mistake. But now we're right at this resistance, which rejected here in March. It rejected again in July. It rejected in August. It rejected 13th of September. And if it rejects here again, if this one turns down from here, that can also give a boost to Bitcoin. So perhaps anticipation of this could explain some of the pumps today. Not sure. But we're right at this resistance level.
In fact, since we jumped in there is another piece that I'd like to share too. Let's pop this up. This is the rate hike expectation. Basically, the market is now certain, like 99% certain, there will be no rate hike in September. That's kind of why the market is pumping a little bit today, but not necessarily all risk assets. But Bitcoin likes that too, because that in turn, once they really enforce the fact that they will not hike anymore, then that'll bring down the Dixie, which will inflate Bitcoin in simple terms. But what's really the most interesting is how now people are expecting rate cuts. So if you look at this chart, the teal color, the light blue, is no change, a little risk of blue. But now, for the first time, we now have certainty that a cut will happen. And that is because the US government is running such high deficits, and half of the debt that they have is rolling into higher interest rates. So they are really going to smash themselves hard, and deficits are going to explode worse than ever if they do not cut rates. So now everybody is talking about, rate cut next, which is a good thing. And that will really change the whole calculus here. And there's other news too regarding liquidity that's coming back into the market as well, which is extremely positive. And we can talk more about that too. But let's get back to one thing that I think is, I spend a lot of time looking at on-chain data, and I am absolutely mind blown by the actual strength of the long-term holders and how it continues. We're basically at a new all-time high. 75.8% of people are just long-term holders, and these people that are holding for long-term, they know the halving is coming. They are not selling. Even 90% of these people, when the Bitcoin price fell to 15.5, they didn't sell. Yeah, so they're definitely not selling now, and they're not selling at 35,000, 40,000, and up and up. I don't know what type price they will sell, but they'll probably start selling in excess of the new all-time high, if there is one, in this bull run. So what do you think about this, and especially in light of big money coming in? It's a foregone conclusion that BlackRock is coming. There's no doubt about that. The spot ETF will be approved. Billions will come into Bitcoin in a very short amount of time, and there is nobody selling. So where will the price go?
Exactly. I mean, investing it's about risk reward, right? Yeah. And for sure, the upside seems better than in a long time. There's at least a possibility of the ETFs coming in that could open Bitcoin to more liquidity. And I mean, the whole thing with Bitcoin started as revolt against the incompetence of the banks and the fiat system. And now that is happening, now that is playing out right in front of everyone's eyes. And for sure, there must be many long-term holders who feel that this is what Bitcoin was built for. And now it's actually happening. So if we don't bet on it now, when would we bet on it? Then, of course, what makes it a little bit difficult is that Bitcoin in the short term acts more as a speculative asset. It reacts more to, if liquidity is coming in, people are buying, then price goes up. If liquidity is exiting, some people are selling, Bitcoin price goes down. It doesn't really, in the short term, reflect these events that's happening. It's not that if the Fed in the US does something dumb, Bitcoin price goes up immediately because people feel more that Bitcoin future has a brighter future. But I think long term, there is an effect of this. I think there are long-term holders who are thinking exactly like this. Someone sitting with a lot of Bitcoin is, clenching the fists and feel that they're really screwing up in the US now with the debt and the interest rates and everything, out of control lending. And this is what Bitcoin was built for. And that person feels, I will never sell now. This is what it's here for. It's do or die. I'll hold to zero and I'll believe in Bitcoin. And that's why they're not selling, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy stuff. Let's look at global liquidity for a second. This is another kind of important chart because this also will drive the market in a big way. This is from the Global Macro Investor, and it shows you how Fed liquidity is rising. And also, China is printing more money. They're not openly saying they are, but global liquidity is on the rise again. Obviously, the Fed needs to print more between the bank bailout program and giving billions of dollars to the car companies on strike here in the US and a lot of other factors. So this is good, and this is only going to increase as we go forward. This is also another tailwind for things like Bitcoin and crypto. And another beautiful tweet that you shared, which I thought was very funny. I would like to talk about your tweet. Like, if this was your friend, would you lend them money? So you can see the red here is the debt exploding for the US. The tax revenue is shrinking, and the deficit is exploding. And this is only going to accelerate and only going to get worse as we go forward. So the question is, would you lend them your money? Of course not. And that's why the downgrade happened from Fitch a few weeks ago. Because they're analyzing the country like an equity and saying, this is not good. This is not good at all. And it's getting worse, but it's getting worse fast. And this is the scale at which the deficits are exploding and the tax revenue is falling is really alarming. And the Fed and the Treasury I don't know what they're doing, but they're making things a lot worse. So when you take 32 trillion, half of it, 16 trillion, is floating from, 0.5%, 1% rate into a 4.5, 5% rate, that is going to absolutely destroy deficits in a big way. And that's why I fear that they may be planning some type of kind of reset right now. That's why they're smashing the small regional banks, etc. And a lot of people have been talking about this. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a valid theory that this is not sustainable. And most importantly, there's no getting back to basics. It's just too big. We're way beyond the point of no return. So, what did you say when you said that on Twitter? I know why you said it, but do you want to share your view on this chart?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And I mean, one aspect that I hadn't even thought about, it was on Twitter today. I saw Ivan also talked about it. You also mentioned it, that the it's just like a private mortgage or something, like for your house, that you can have a loan that's locked up on 1% because you locked the rate a long time ago when it was 1%, but then that date is approaching and it's time to issue the new loan, and that will be at 5% instead of 1%. And it's the same it's the same for countries. It's the same for the Fed. So they will need to take these basically almost 10 trillion that they had at more favorable rates, or 8 trillion plus another 2 in deficit. That makes like 10 trillion, and they're going to have to sign a new loan at 5% instead of 1%. And that then is adding to the deficit with another half trillion almost. So it's these huge effects that are kind of stacking on each other, and to me it seems it's spiraling out of control. Looking at that chart you just showed, and it's not even up to date, it's worse
yeah,
since then. And these things are like adding to each other. Now this is this other effect. They have more expensive loans now, and they have to pay more in interest. That will make the deficit even worse, and they need to lend even more money. It's spiraling out of control. If this was a business and they come into the bank and say, here are my numbers, I'd like to borrow some more money, they'll kick you out before you get in through the door. Or if you're a private person and you try to you know lend money to buy another house or something, you never get the loan.
yeah.
So
I think it was a couple of months ago. I basically calculated the equity ratios, financial ratios for the U.S. if it was a company. And literally, if it was a company, the price would be zero. It'd be beyond
yeah, exactly.
beyond bankrupt. So it's
Yeah,
kind of a sad. We laugh about it here because we are protected with some hard assets,
mm,
but people that are not, the dollar is just going to debase going forward. Anyway, let's get back to crypto. This is a
yeah.
interesting
And you
Ethereum.
said it. I think that's the important conclusion. That what will happen? What will happen then? Will the U.S. crash and burn or something? No, I don't think so. What will happen is that the dollar will continue to debase, which means that $1 becomes less worth, and then price of Bitcoin, as measured in dollar, can actually go up forever at the same way as the stock market has done. If looking at a 100-year perspective on the stock market, it is a straight line up on the logarithmic chart because the dollar gets less worth each year.
Yeah. And there's also talk of the new potential president for Argentina, and they're going to dollarize Argentina to solve their own problem. So they're going to go from a rapidly debasing currency to a debasing currency, which would be interesting. I thought they'd make a better, more bold step along the lines of El Salvador, but that's just too much, too fast. Okay, let's look at
Mm.
one quick Ethereum chart. I think this is kind of interesting ratio. This is the buy orders versus sell orders in the futures market, and it's been rising all of September. And this is basically very bullish sentiment. So big players are making their kind of option bets on a bullish move for Ethereum. And this is obviously extremely bullish, and it will drive up Ethereum's value if they're correct. So, what do you think of Ethereum right now? How does it look to you? According to this, people are expecting it to pop, and they're placing their bets accordingly.
Let me bring up the chart here. I have been a little disappointed in the price action of Ethereum. I felt a couple of months ago that we were making a inverse head and shoulder in Ethereum versus BTC for the altcoins. I'm a huge fan of looking at the coin versus BTC because that eliminates some of the movements of Bitcoin versus dollar, and we can isolate the project as such. How is Ethereum doing? And at least get a little bit insulated from the speculation of Bitcoin versus dollar. And I felt that we were getting a left shoulder, head, and a right shoulder here. But this one should have started moving up, and it hasn't really. We have like now we're getting an overextended right shoulder. So that scenario hasn't really made any signs of playing out. But if it does, if it breaks above, again, this resistance level, breaks out here, it could still be inverse head and shoulders of sorts, which would be very bullish then. And then the target of that would actually be up in the range where Ethereum has similar market cap as Bitcoin. But so far, it hasn't happened. There's no signs of movements here in this chart. It keeps, trend is still down. It hasn't really moved. So
And
I just wait and see.
yeah, it could also be because everybody is really anticipating the spot ETF, money coming in, the Bitcoin halving. It's as if the spotlight is on Bitcoin and
Yeah,
Ethereum
definitely.
getting ignored. But there's a lot of
Yeah,
also behind the scenes bullish action because if they do approve the Bitcoin spot ETF, right behind it has to be the Ethereum one too, I believe.
yeah.
So that is
And it
also
was you who really highlighted the great opportunity when we talked about the grayscale discount on Bitcoin,
yeah,
which was really a great trade. And at that time, the Ethereum discount on grayscale was even bigger and was an
yeah,
even better
yeah.
trade, actually. So it's like it's exactly as you say. I feel a lot of the spotlight now is on Bitcoin, and that could lead to that there are actually opportunities in the altcoins that are not being really, no one is really buying them.
Yes, we have some Swedish people in the audience too. EMC Koba saying hello in Swedish to you. All right, let's look at one more chart and then we'll make it very interactive because I know a lot of people are concerned right now. I get a lot of questions. Is it too late to get in? Is it too early to get in? Should I wait for $3,000 Bitcoin, $10,000? Because, there's still a lot of very negative sentiment out there. But this is another chart, basically, that talks to the fact that the downside is tapped out. This is the RPV ratio, which is realized profits to value for Bitcoin, and it signals a move higher. You can see it's very. I love charts that are just so simple, like the buy zone here down in the green, going back to 2010, and then the sell zone at the top. It's hindsight is always 2020 vision, but when you see it spelled out like this, it's interesting. But when you see the RPV ratio signaling, okay, this analysis suggests that the downside potential for Bitcoin is exhausted, with a significant chance that it won't plummet further into the buy zone. So we're early bull, it came off 15.5. Now the new floor seems to be that 25K. And considering the current data and the observation of a trend of the bottom after bottom, a lot of people who are waiting for a further plunge before buying, that is, based on this chart, not a clever strategy. Every single thing I look at, it looks very, very bullish to me. So what do you make of this RPV? Do you believe the downside is tapped out? There is no more selling? Well,
I think the bottom is in, absolutely. Yes, if I can share the chart again, if we zoom out a little bit, I think what has happened is very clear. We had this big downtrend, basically the entire of 2022, straight line down. And then what happened was that we got a classical charting, bottom pattern in the chart, inverse head and shoulder. Here's the head, here's the right shoulder, and it confirmed. That means that it is a pattern. That's a very high confidence pattern. Consolidating, we're bouncing around here. But probability is that after a period of consolidation, we continue in the direction of the dominant trend. So I think the short-term trend will turn up at some point, and that we can get a breakout here, or we will continue to move around a little bit in this range. But I think the bottom is in. I think this construction here, if I remove this, I think the construction here is the bottom pattern in Bitcoin. And I think that is in. And the fact that we're bouncing around here, that doesn't change anything.
But do you agree
Only
if
if we invalidate that pattern, if we move below the right shoulder, okay, then it's a different case. If we move below 20K or something like that. But I don't think it's going to happen based on classical charting. This is a bottom pattern. We're in a consolidation. The consolidation will end, and I think we will move much higher from here.
Yeah, but basically since March, that 25K has held very well. That's a long time.
It is, yeah.
Half a year, 25K support. So that's kind of what I was trying to get at. A lot of people hoping for that plunge down to 15K or a new lower low or 10,000 or whatever. I don't see us falling below 25K unless something really bad happens in the markets, because the institutions know they have to fill their bags, and Saylor is buying, and other people are probably buying on the side, and adoption is growing. I think it's a solid base from here.
I think so too. Yeah.
Good. All right. Hopefully might be the end of charts. So I didn't have a very large agenda today, but we spoke about the bottom, jumped around, looked at global liquidity, the problems. And by the way, when we talk about the US and debt, it's the same all over the world. Wherever you are, all the countries have the same problems. Long-term holder supply, new records, it's crazy. But let's pop open a few questions from the audience, as I do know people do have that level of concern and they're hearing different things. And yes, Michael Saylor is. Do you think Michael Saylor is buying too much Bitcoin? Or are you afraid?
Michael Saylor, he's taking one big bet, right? In this part of his life, he is going all in on one bet. He has no incentive to risk mitigate or something at this point. He is betting everything on this. So, no, I think he is the one who dares to go first and really make a huge bet on Bitcoin. I think it's great. There have been a few big players that made huge bets in the past, and during this era, that is Michael Saylor. I think it's great.
Yeah. There's Lee B asks, Ran from Crypto Banter says the pump is caused by China jumping into gold and Bitcoin to get away from the yuan. Also says the price of Bitcoin over there is about $32,000. What do you think of that? I know gold had a slight pump. It's up 0.17% today, but that's probably a big move for gold. It did go up last week a little bit. But do you think the Chinese... I know the Chinese are buying gold. I know that for a fact. They've been doing that for a long time. But would the Chinese government actually be buying Bitcoin?
I don't think the government is buying Bitcoin, but I think that there's a lot, I know for sure, there's a lot of investors in Asia that are buying Bitcoin because if you say that you're a rich person in some Asian country, in many countries, you can't move your money out. If you're rich in, I don't know, Vietnam or something, you can buy more condos or something like that, but you can't go to your bank and send your Vietnamese dong to your bank account in the US or London. You won't get them out like that. And it's the same in Thailand or in China and in great many countries. Many of these countries, you can move money out, but you can move money in, but you cannot move them out in the same way. So, and then what do Chinese investors do then? They try to maybe they buy art, or they try to somehow buy properties, and that way de-risk from their own country, sort of. Maybe they want to move to another country in the future or something. And then what's the best way to do that? Some asset that you can buy and then you can sell it in another country. for sure it's easier to do that with Bitcoin than to go and buy a Picasso painting or something like that. So absolutely. And then from pure speculation, a lot of investors in China, they like the speculative element. They like the kind of, it feels a little bit like gambling. The crypto is a bit of gambling, and they like it. Same in Vietnam, same in many countries in Asia. They like crypto for a lot of different reasons, both very practical. They like the speculative nature of it. They're often much more future oriented, like positive to the future. In the West, we can be a little bit that I was better before and look how bad everything has gotten and so on. While I think the average person in Asia compared to the average person in the West is much more positive to new technology, new developments, and more positive to the future. So yeah, there's much less of this negative sentiment, mostly just because crypto and Bitcoin is new. That doesn't exist there in the same way. And now I'm talking about private individuals. I'm not talking about the government.
And it makes sense. One of the things, the other comments from Lee was there is a premium. It's trading about $32,000. And the reason for that, there used to be a thing way back called the kimchi premium. That's when the South Koreans were buying up a lot of Bitcoin. That was a very bullish indicator when they were moving. But now there's kind of like a Chinese premium. What would it be? Dim sum premium instead of a kimchi premium? I don't know. But that's because the Chinese has very strict capital controls in place. That means anybody who really wants to get it, they have to go to kind of think of a Bitcoin black market, and they have to pay extra to get it, just to get a premium or a reward for being able to circumvent those capital controls in China. So that's a big part of it. Next question from George LUFC. Can BlackRock buy before the ETF approval, or do they have to wait until approval? Because if they don't, why would they need to even apply for an ETF? So I'll take that first, and you tell me what you think. But what BlackRock are doing behind the scenes, we are not sure, but it's pretty clear they are building very big positions in Bitcoin proxies. They're buying miners hand over fist. They have a big position in Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy, and they're probably doing some OTC allocations somewhere under some shell company, so they don't have to disclose it properly. They know once they get the ETF approval, their business will pivot heavily towards, think of them as a massive investment manager that manage big pension funds, etc. They say, well, you need a 0.5% allocation to Bitcoin or 1% or whatever. And that's the big business for them. They need assets to perform so they look good in front of their customers. It's that simple. But what do you think BlackRock are doing behind the scenes right now, CTO?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, BlackRock they're not probably sitting there speculating themselves. The reason this ETF question is so big is exactly as you say. BlackRock is investing on behalf of clients, and their clients are other big funds. And right now, I don't think most pension funds go and invest in Bitcoin, right? They don't go on Coinbase and open a Coinbase Pro account, something like that. But if this is offered by BlackRock in the same way as you can have exposure to Nasdaq index or commodities or gold or something like that, I think a lot of those pension managers might say exactly like you say, who knows, this Bitcoin thing might catch on. Maybe we should have 1% allocation, just in case. Probably it's a scam and it's just by, money laundering and terrorist financing, things they've read in the newspaper. But maybe it will catch on, so let's put 1%. That could happen. And then BlackRock, as you say, they need to show that they provide value, and then they need to show that stuff goes up. And if they have their analysis department think that Bitcoin is a good risk reward, meaning that the upside, even if it's a 50% chance that Bitcoin will succeed and 50% chance it will go to zero, that's a great risk reward, because if it succeeds, it's going to go up maybe 20 times. while if it goes down, it can only go down 1x, sort of. So the risk versus the reward, even if we assume it's only 50% chance that Bitcoin succeeds, is a great risk reward. And all those analysts, they will all come to the same conclusion. So they will probably recommend, they will say that I think it's worth putting in a little bit of percent in Bitcoin because the risk reward is good, even if they don't know the outcome. So at least enough people will do that for this to lead to inflow of liquidity, inflow of capital to Bitcoin, and then price can pump.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anderson W says, how about the Solana 6% pump happening right now? And also, Reliant Topo says, did you see the Billions TV show reference Solana? I didn't, but I did a quick Google search, and it said Solana was referenced in Season 7, Episode 5 of the TV show called Billions. In the episode, the character Taylor Mason, whoever he is talking about the future of finance and the future of digital assets, and she says, it's a lady, sorry, Taylor Mason. She says Solana is a blockchain that is gaining traction, fast, scalable, and has low transaction fees, and is the future of finance. So that's kind of weird mainstreamification for a TV show to reference that. Thank you for sharing, Reliant Topo. Did you hear anything about that? You probably don't watch
TV. I didn't. Yeah, I haven't watched the show, but I think Solana is appearing in a lot of mainstream concepts and discussions. And I think the reason is that it's kind of less complex. We talked about it on this channel many times. It's very difficult to understand the layer 2s and all those concepts. It seems harder to understand than a blockchain, which is like Ethereum. It's just faster and cheaper. That's kind of the 10-second summary. And I think that's one reason why Solana do show up a lot in different situations. Also, I think they do a great work with business development, probably. I'm guessing that they are reaching out and trying to showcase the opportunity.
Yeah. Another question regarding everybody's concerned about, one of the reasons the price is suppressed for Bitcoin is the big buyers like BlackRock, if they're buying OTC. And is that why the price action is so low considering where we are? Because the long-term holders aren't selling, people are accumulating, but the price is still quite stable.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't think BlackRock themselves is the one trying to buy, and they would do that maybe especially since the reason that all the ETFs have been rejected have been because of kind of shady manipulation and stuff like that. They probably don't want to sit there and buy the day before the ETF is approved, then maybe it gets rejected the day after again because they've done something not right themselves. I think, just like I said, I think they will try to gain exposure through miners or something like that instead. I think the inflow, if the ETF is approved, will happen slowly over time afterwards. That's when the next time the pension fund is doing their yearly strategy, they will decide to add 1% to Bitcoin. But that could happen months later. I think so. But of course, there is a huge manipulation aspect of Bitcoin price. There are big players that have enough money that they can short-term manipulate the price. There is no doubt about that, but so it's the case with all the other assets also. It's not specific to Bitcoin. So if you can sometimes see it almost in the chart, prices run down just below people's stop loss, and then the next hour it's run back again. Or if there are huge short positions, prices run up to liquidate all those people just past their liquidation point, and then it's run back again. And like you said in the beginning, there were a lot of shorts liquidated today. Now I saw a lot of longs are piling up. So even if price is going to go up from here, someone might run the price down first to liquidate all those people. Yep. And then run it back up. Then it will be even easier to run it up again. So
Exactly.
Those kinds do happen, but I don't think it's BlackRock. It's individual big investors sitting playing very profitable games
Yeah.
short term.
This question from Jerry Crosby always catches people out. And that is, with all the debt and companies going bankrupt, commercial real estate going under, etc., Jerry is not sure the bottom is in. No way, period. It's all about the macro. So my counterpoint to that is, all last year, we expected a recession. Okay? But remember, that's why I said, be in things like recession proof stocks and crypto. But the markets are always forward looking. So even though everybody kind of factors in a recession or no recession and no commercial real estate crisis is coming, etc., bankruptcies are escalating like crazy, the market doesn't care. There's still 5.3 trillion on the sidelines, a lot of money in money market funds that needs to be deployed into risk assets. So the market will be looking forward now to, okay, when the economy, if it does get bad or there's some type of crisis beyond the strike and real estate and bankruptcies and unemployment, etc., then the Fed will cut rates, well, they have to for themselves anyway, and print more money. And then that'll float all assets. That's what the market looks forward to, not how bad the macro situation is. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you what you think about the real estate sector, because looking at the small town of Stockholm here in Sweden, rates have gone up a lot, right? They were almost zero. A couple of years ago, after tax deductions and everything, it was almost free money. The mortgages were almost zero, or like less than 1%. And now they're 5% basically. So the cost for many people to pay their mortgage, it has basically gone up 5 times or 4 times. That's huge, but it hasn't had any effect on the real estate prices.
Yeah.
While you could imagine that it would, some people can't pay the mortgage anymore. They have to panic sell their home and move to a cheaper place, and market prices crash down and so on. That hasn't happened. There hasn't been any movement. And I think it's similar in most other countries. But what do you think? Do you think that these higher interest rates will affect real estate prices at all? Or
Well, it depends, and I'm not that familiar with the Swedish market at all, real
I
estate
just took it
market.
as an example. I mean,
But
say the US.
do you have access? What's key there is, do you have access to long term mortgage rates? Like if you buy a house, can you lock
You
in a
do,
rate for
yeah.
10? Okay, good.
You can
Uh,
choose, yeah. So people can choose when they buy the house. They can basically, together with the bank, they can choose whether to have short-term rates or long-term rates. But I think that at least most people had mostly short-term rates some years ago. So I don't think they locked them in.
okay, well if they do, so what happens in the U.S. is a lot of people have long term rates locked in, like 7 years, 10 years, 30 years, and they're all around 3%. So what that has done is anybody with that cheap rate compared to today, they can't sell their house. They can't move because they'd have to refinance at a much higher rate, double the cost. That's why there's
Mm.
very little housing available on the market, but there's some people that always will need to buy. So you've taken 80% of supply off the market, say, but there's still those 20% of buyers. That's why the prices are going up, because there's not enough supply to meet demand, even for people willing to pay 7% mortgage rate now, which is basically what it was in the 90s for most of my life. So that's kind of what's happening there. But also, not too far from where you are in Denmark, I was reading this article about the fact that they have so much money coming in right now from a thing called Wegovy, some weight loss injection. It's now the biggest company in Europe is now a obesity drug, which used to be a diabetes drug or something. And Denmark is bringing in so much money that they have to artificially keep rates low so that the Danish krona doesn't get too attractive. It's an interesting thing. Do you see any of that fall over into the Swedish krona?
I mean, I see that Sweden is doing fairly well. I had like when about a year ago when I think a lot of people started fearing what will happen with the economy. Will we go into recession? Will everyone lose their jobs? Will the property prices dive down? Then I think a lot of people felt it. I spoke with a cafe owner, my corner cafe. She said that almost overnight, everyone stopped going to the cafe. They felt, okay, tougher times are coming. What should I do? I make my coffee at home. And these are people with good jobs and so on. It's not poor people. They decided suddenly to, I have to save somewhere, and they stop going to the cafe almost overnight. She had always had full cafe. Suddenly she has to lay off staff. And I said then, and she was like almost crying and very, very upset about this. And I said, wait 3 months, people are going to forget about this and they're going to go back to normal. And sure enough, now it's full again. And nothing has really changed. I think that the fear was there, but then the fear kind of died down. And then in the end, nothing has really changed. And I think people have forgotten about this. It's the new normal. Okay, interest rates are a little higher, but nothing has really changed otherwise. I feel that the people are generally doing well. Of course, there's some people who are not, right, who are in a tough spot, and that can lead to more violence, for example. But I think the everyday people, they're still doing fine.
Yeah. Another real estate question is interesting. Eden9 asks, could a possible real estate crash trigger a general market crash? So this did happen in the past with the global financial crisis, but the reason it happened was because of exotic mortgages and crazy, financing of these and selling big blocks of mortgages and giving mortgages away for free to people who had no ability to ever support or service them. That was the trigger there. I think we don't have that type of bubble now at all in the real estate market. Real estate goes up in value because of supply and demand, stock to flow, growing populations, etc. That's why it goes up. And of course, money debases. That's why real estate goes up. That's why we always emphasize hard assets. But I think this time around, there will be, I expect the commercial real estate crisis to come home to roost. That's going to break some banks, and then the banks will roll into the bigger banks at pennies on the dollar, and that's what will happen. But I think it's going to be better managed because of the collaboration between the very large money center banks and the government. And they'll do deals like they did with Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic so far this year. So I think when everybody expects something to happen, like if everybody anticipates a crisis, people plan ahead for it, and it doesn't bring about a stock market crash. Do you have any perspective on that as well?
Yeah, I think you covered that. And if I can add one perspective, which is maybe because my strength is that I see technology trends and how they have an effect on society. And I think one trend, if we're thinking about real estate, that it won't happen overnight, it's not happening immediately, but I think it will happen more and more over the next 5 or 10 years. And if looking at real estate investment, it could be important. That is that we're working more digitally.
Yeah.
And I think that trend will only accelerate. In the crypto space, where everyone is already working only digitally, we're working off our laptops, can sit anywhere and work, while that wasn't possible before. And I think that will come to more of society. Of course, COVID accelerated that, and I think it will just accelerate. We will live even more in the digital world. Soon we will have headsets and we will be fully immersed in the digital world. And that means that people will want to live in different places. I think everyone kind of likes living on the beach or something like that, but before you couldn't do it because you have to commute to your office. That's what's paying for the place that you're living in. And you couldn't do it, so you have to live in a certain location that's within commuting distance to your work. But if more and more people start making a lot of money working only digitally, more people will start wanting to live in a nicer spot where you can go out and there's a beach there, or there's like a nice city atmosphere if you want to live in the hustle and bustle of a nice city or something like that. You don't have to live in a sad suburb anymore because it's kind of a close commuting distance to your office. And I think that this kind of migration in how we live our life, how society functions, I think that might shift real estate value into new places. And these are so slow movements, so I think it hasn't really happened yet, but I think it will happen more and more. So think about where would you actually want to live if you could live anywhere and just work off your laptop? And if you want to go there, probably there's a lot more other people, and maybe, try to get ahead of them. I think that will be kind of the next 10-year trend in real estate.
Definitely. Just Chilled has a quick question. Any advice on how to build an accumulation portfolio, like 50-50 ETH, Bitcoin, or anything else? I'd like to keep it super simple. What would you advise somebody? A question I get a lot is, oh, I'm just new to the market. Is it too late to start building a position in X, Y, or Z? And I think the simple answer is it's never too late to start. But how would you go about accumulating a portfolio?
Yeah, I think that the easiest mistake, if just coming into this and not done anything yet, is to remain paralyzed all the way until the end of the bull market and then buy. That's the most common mistake. Like you hesitate, maybe it's too late, maybe it's too late. Oh, now it went up today, I can't buy today. But now it went down this week, then I can't buy because clearly it's going down now. And then you kind of end up doing nothing. And only when price is 100,000 or 200,000, whatever it is, at the top of some cycle, and everyone's talking about it, and I think, I should have bought, and then they buy, and then they hold all the way down again, and then they quit. So that's the mistake to not do. I think the way to handle it is to start. You buy something. Don't buy everything in one go, because the market will be out to get you then, and then it will dump tomorrow and will feel very bad. So buy something, start a little bit, and then keep adding to the position. And then there's 100 different ways to do that. You can dollar cost average, you can learn technical analysis, try to buy at support. You can do like I'm trying to buy when the trend turns up, and reduce when the trend turns down. There's 100 ways that you can speculate in the market, and they're all fine. They all work on average. So, but don't stay paralyzed. Buy something, like log in today and buy with 10% of your portfolio, and then you can think about tomorrow what you're going to do after that. But don't stay paralyzed until the end of the cycle and then take action.
Exactly.
That's
And
what I
then
would do.
one of the things as well, what we have here is what we call DCAS, is dollar cost averaging on steroids. It helps you not FOMO into the market, but load your buys at opportune times, because you see from the simple chart here, tells you when to buy 3 times the weekly DCA versus not buy at all. So when Bitcoin price is pumping, stay out, and then when it takes a breather, you get back in at a heavier load. And you can see the ROI on this is 18.4% versus 7.9% of just DCA. So there are different tools out there as well that can make
Exactly. But
everything.
the interesting thing is that coming up with a strategy that works is not the problem. A lot of people think that it's very difficult to do that. No, you can almost buy any textbook and it's going to work on an asset like Bitcoin.
Yeah,
It's an easy market. It's much easier market than most traditional markets. So you can almost take any strategy, it's going to work. The reason that most people still lose money is that not that they can't figure out the strategy, is that they can't follow their own strategy. That's the problem. The problem is the execution. It's not easy to log in and place a buy order at support after price has gone down for every day for weeks in a row. You feel like an idiot. Like, why am I buying now? Price is obviously going down. And the same thing if it's topping out and everyone's talking about it's going to go to 1 million. It's very difficult to log in and take some profits and sell. You feel like an idiot. Why am I selling now? It's obviously going to the moon. And that's the problem. It's really to find a strategy is the easy part. Following the strategy
exactly.
is the difficult part. That's the mistake that most people are doing.
I call it people need an emotion removal machine.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
just a simple, as you say, process to build a plan, stick to a plan, execute a plan based on a tool or process or whatever, and it's real simple. And that's been a big part of my life, and I have to attribute Switzerland for that, because they are meticulous planners and they think of everything 5, 10, 15 years down the road. At least in the 90s they did. I'm sure maybe it's a little more short-term focused right now. Now, speaking of that too, we have a situation where humans they get when something pumps, it gets their attention. So right now, Chainlink is pumping. It's been doing very well over the last 30 days. Dominic Gallo says thoughts on Chainlink. We know it's really been doing well. Why don't you pop up a Chainlink chart here, and or Link ETH would be a good one too. I have
Yeah.
it as well if you don't, and show the overperformance. Also, there's a lot of good things happening behind the scenes for Chainlink as an oracle with partnerships and deals and the new burn mechanism, and TradFi is getting in with Chainlink 2 to kind of build a new blockchain TradFi world. But let me see what you got here.
Yeah. So
Oh, again,
Link is
Bitcoin.
an interesting one. It was a coin that I followed from very early days, and they do provide real value. I mean, most projects they don't actually do anything, but Link does. It's providing the price feed of real world into the blockchain space, which is very important and very valuable for most protocols. And Link was in this huge run up from 2017 all the way until the top there in September. This is against BTC, so it's the Link versus BTC chart. And then it's been mostly in this downwards pointing channel. And this is a well described chart pattern in classical charting. It's called a wedge. And if it's over multi years, if this one breaks out on the upside, that is a actionable event, and it would probably do so with a trend up. And that's probably where I would kind of go back to looking at Link seriously. And again, this is the BTC chart. If that happens and it starts moving, probably the moves in USD would be bigger if we get a real bull market here into 2025. But that's how I see Link today. It
Pull up
7%
Link
move
ETH.
today
Put
is
up
huge, but if you
yeah,
zoom out, you can't even see it.
yeah,
That move is kind of down here.
exactly. Pull
Uh,
up Link ETH. I think it's a better
yeah,
parallel.
it's really charted this one, but yeah,
A little more stable. You can see
it
how
is. Yeah. It's not really, it's not a convincing turnaround for me yet, this one, but who knows? It could develop into one.
yeah. And
Um,
I don't own any Link, but I did a post a while back that I think when Chainlink is at $5, it's a screaming buy. It's a
yeah.
very good price for it considering right now.
Yeah, actually, I think you're right here. I think the easiest chart here really to understand the chain link in the medium term is actually the USD chart, opposite of what I said earlier, because it's been very stable in the USD range. So maybe Link, more people are trading versus USD because here it has this super well defined range
Yep.
where support has held so many times, all the way from May 2022 at $5, exactly as you say. One time, twice, three times, four
Yep.
times, five times, six times, seven times. And here it came very close, eight times. And yeah, that's a very, just like you say, buying on support. You can see it here how many times that has worked in a
Yep.
row.
And sell it at
And
$8.
yeah, and, yeah, exactly. And if what this has done now, just like Bitcoin is doing now, it's just bouncing around in this range
Mm,
from top to bottom, front run a little bit, and that hasn't changed. But if it breaks out, if we wake up tomorrow and it's at $10.60 and doesn't reject, okay, then this is a bottom pattern in the chart. Then there is a well-defined target and it is a real breakout, and that's actionable, especially if it happens with a trend pointing in the same direction. Then that would be that's how I would go about something like this. Or if you want to range trade, you do exactly like you say, James. You buy at support, and then you can even offload a little bit at resistance and buy again next time at support.
good, good. Let me see. There's another very fast question right now. I think I'm just looking one more thing, and then we'll wrap it up. Let me make sure we're showing ourselves. Let me see. Look into the companies that hold the most Bitcoin on their balance sheets. I'm holding those in combo with my crypto holdings. Yeah, Chris, there's only a few that really matter. So for a company, I think, to be worthwhile looking for as a Bitcoin proxy, it needs to have more than half of their balance sheet in Bitcoin. And there's only a few of those companies that do that. One is, I think, Hut 8 Mining, MicroStrategy, of course, and a few others. But if you look at, say, the amount of Bitcoin that Tesla has in their balance sheet, it's negligible. And many people make that mistake, but it is an interesting strategy too. And I'm hoping with the new accounting rules as well, there will be more Bitcoin treasuries, which will be another afterburner for the price action on top of the ETF. We just need, we thought the institutions were coming last year, or last run, I should say. They kind of came, but they didn't, not in full force like they will this time around. So this will be a very, very exciting 2024. And what I suggest everybody is stay healthy. It's the most important thing. Just got to get to the finish line. So that's it from all. Hey, crop, everybody's out there. Any final thoughts from you? We're at the top of the hour.
Just to pick on what you just said here, congrats everyone who is still here watching. This has been a really boring 6 months in crypto. Prices just jumped around. Most people have lost money, or at least not made any money, because price faking out in all directions and nothing is really moving. And it's been really boring, and you can see it in the engagement. I think if you look at crypto Twitter or crypto X or YouTube views or anything, you can see that people are less engaged. Most people have gotten bored and they've left. And I can tell exactly what's going to happen. They're going to come back at the top of the next bull run. So everyone who is still here and hasn't gotten bored and quit, congratulations, because I can guarantee that this tight range, choppy price action isn't going to remain forever. It's just not the nature of global technology. It will go back to trending, and probably it will continue to do what it has in the past. It will go multiple X up, multiple X down, and trend for extended periods. And that opportunity will always be there, I think, because it's just the nature of the technology.
And despite you saying it's been a quiet 6 months, certain assets have been incredible. AI tech stocks, Bitcoin miners.
Oh yeah, I'm talking specifically about Bitcoin and altcoins. Yeah.
So I think the key thing for the audience here is there's always an opportunity, but the key is to be able to time the opportunity. You got to be on the train before it pumps, and then off that train to another train before it pumps and rotate around. That's
absolutely. We put a lot of effort, as we talked about, in the uranium, for example, on my channel, because we felt that it was really such a clear opportunity, but no one is interested. No one is talking about it. No one is looking at it. Then it pumps, and then everyone is interested. And that's the classic mistake. You have to do the other way around. You have to find something that no one is interested in when they're not interested, that has potential to make it. And then later at cycle, when cycle starts pumping and so on, then the mass market's going to come. But then often it's too late. You have to get in earlier. You have to study, do the work, and go against everyone, usually. Be ahead of everyone else.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you for spending Monday with us. Thank you, everybody in the audience. Do not forget to subscribe as well to CTO's channel. If I can pull it up. Well, the link is below for CTO's channel. And I want to thank everybody for being here. It's nice. We love Mondays, sharing information and being here with everybody. And we will see you all tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe to CTO Show. Check out that uranium video, because I know you were talking about uranium at the beginning of the year.
Well. And it was so funny, just if we're spending one more second on it, it was maybe the highest confidence thing. We even found the world's biggest buyer of spot uranium, who happened to be a Swedish. So, and by chance, he was in Sweden. He came here and he literally sat there here in the chair and said that I mean, he had all the insights, and he could share it for free on YouTube. But it's not enough for most people. They will only buy after price has gone up, when everyone is talking about something and so on, and then it's often too late. So I think if kind of tying that back to Tesla or tech stocks or Bitcoin or Solana or Ethereum or any of the altcoins, the time to buy is usually when no one is talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's quite difficult. Speaking of, and I think everyone can understand that. When hearing this plan, it seems obvious. Everyone say, yeah, that's the plan, obviously. But sticking to it and actually doing it is difficult. It's difficult, even with experience and all those things. It's difficult to stick to the plan. That's the challenge. It's not to figure out what to do.
So we came up with a new slogan. We should change it from DCA to buy when boring.
Yeah.
That's key. And then sell when pumping. That's a great little lesson for today for everybody. Thank you all for being here. Happy Monday. Have a great week, everybody. Bitcoin's up $800. Solana just hit $20 for the first time in a little while, and things are good. Rectember didn't happen so far, but we still have 12 days left in the month. Anything can happen. Be prepared, but look for opportunities.
Can I clarify one thing? I see in the comments. This is not the Ukraine flag. This is the Swedish flag. So the blue and yellow you might recognize from IKEA. It's just a coincidence that Ukraine has the same colors on the flag. But I'm from Sweden. I'm not giving any other political messages.
Well said. Well, no matter what you say on the internet, you're always going to offend somebody. So, but we know your mug. Your mug is in almost every video. So
yeah,
it's the only one. If it folds, you have a spare one.
On it.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Team Sverga. Did I say that right?
You did. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week, and I'll see you all soon. Bye all.
Bye-bye.